I have a sign-in sheet.
Sure.
Yes, sir. Good morning, everybody. Pardon our delay in getting started. For those of us that are in attendance live, as well as joining us via Zoom, we'll go around, introduce ourselves, and then introduce the folks on Zoom, and then get started. If you will, Captain Martinez.
Yeah, Jordan Martinez, president of Local 3282, the Marque Professional Firefighter Association.
Chief.
David Merriman, Fire Chief for the City of Lamarque.
Cesar Garcia, City Manager, City of Lamarque. In the back of the room, we have Ms. Patty Reese, who is our HR Director. We have our Systems Administrator, Mr. Kyle Hunter, helping us with the controls. And joining us electronically, we have, everybody would like to introduce themselves, please.
Gus Knable, the outside city attorney.
Jennifer Earl, Admin Assistant for City Manager.
Got Isaiah Reyes, Vice President of Union 3282.
All right. Appreciate everybody for joining us. Appreciate everybody's time and so forth. We're going to go ahead and get started. To this point, this is a point of order. First of all, I wanted to tell you, not that what police does matters, but I wanted to offer you the same courtesy. They have requested for us to use the first meeting that existed almost as a zero meeting, meaning it was just to sign everything off and kind of get the ball rolling in that sense. And I wanted to offer you all that same courtesy, because technically, if not, then this would count as our third meeting.
Right.
Which obviously is a turning point in the actual set of meetings. So if you choose to do that, and you have until the end of the meeting to decide that,
Right.
if you wish, if you count that as the third, as the zero meeting, then that technically makes today the second meeting. So whatever your decision would be on that, we could decide by the end of the meeting to move things forward. I wanted to offer the same courtesy that police requested if you so chose.
Yes, sir.
Gus, is that aligned with what we how we pretty much said it before?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, moving things forward. We left off with some data that was comparing different fire departments. Since our last meeting, we have begun working on the budget. And as of present time, we are presenting the budget to our council tonight. Not just for fire CBA, but obviously for the entire city. As our first meeting, we're introducing it for their review. Long way to go on that end, but I do want to take a moment to appreciate the fact that you've obtained the data that we requested. And if we could take a moment to review as such.
Yes, absolutely. So what we printed out, what you asked, this information, the majority of it came from the city websites, but we also, it's a small world, fire speaking. We have a lot of friends in all of these cities. And so the per capita is what you asked for, and we'll just use an example. We use Texas City. And bear with me because I'm new at this. And so the way that you kind of explained that it would work when you gave those general numbers, that general idea. So we took Texas City is one of our comparison cities. They have a population of 49,468. Their fire department's budget is 11,203,797, which puts them at $241. So $241 a year per citizen in Texas City. That amount of money goes towards the fire department's budget. And you'll see the rest. You want me to read them off, or if you just
Please, for the record, for those
Okay.
that may be joining us electronically.
sure. And again, might have fat thumbed. I printed them out, double, triple checked them, and I want to say that more for the other cities, just out of respect that if I got it wrong, apologize. Webster's population 11,583, and their budget is 4,978,386, which puts them at $429 a year. Baytown Population, of course, was 83,708. And their budget's 26,211,142, which puts them at $313 a year. Per capita. Westview, population of 14,495. Budget is 3,952,000, which puts them at 263 a year. Galveston, 53,695 population, budget 13,256,380, which puts them at $240 per year. And then, of course, we did our own Marque, 18,030 as our population. The budget's 3,158,571. That puts us at 175 per year.
So we'd like the record reflect that on average, to the comparisons that we agreed we would have, that we are 2/3 to half of the budget per capita. That's what you presented today.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just for a point of clarification, in case folks around us ask the question, because I know that it's been asked already, so that's why I want to bring it to the record. Some of the other cities that may be around us, however, are not considered comps. So for example, League City, why are they not considered a comp?
Because they're a volunteer fire department.
So the volunteers. What is this? Per,
Based on our budget
Mhm.
versus the number of calls last year.
that call, okay, perfect. That's what we want to try to get so that, so we understand that. Thank you. That's important, David.
Obviously, I can't do the rest of them
Sure,
sitting
sure.
here, but
Sure, but
Ours,
that's
I could
the general idea is to have that. And for the record reflect, for those that are listening, we're looking at taking this data, breaking it down as to what it costs per call that's being made. So folks have a general look at what the calls cost us, right? Going back to the question, so League City is a volunteer fire department. Dickinson,
Volunteer,
also volunteer. Hitchcock,
volunteer,
Santa Fe.
volunteer fire.
Are there any others around us that may or may not have been used as a comp or as a comparison? So for example, Seabrook, San Leon,
Volunteer.
San Leon, volunteer.
the other one that gets, the other city that gets compared to us quite often is Alvin, and they are a volunteer as well.
So I'll ask the question only because it's been asked, right? So I've got all the other comparable cities around us are all volunteer for the most part, except for the list that you've shown. The question is let's talk about briefly, I know we talked about it once during the cycle already, but for those that may have inquired again, difference between a volunteer fire department and one that's not, as ours and all the others that were here. What are we considering missing? And I heard, is League City considering being non-volunteer? Is that one of the things that I've heard in discussion, or?
That's the rumor.
Okay,
I mean, I guess, yeah, that's the rumor. I've been hearing that, I think since I started here, that's 5 years ago, but you know,
so,
Yeah.
It's just a rumor. There's no confirmation that they're
got
going.
it.
that would be a real concern for us.
Sure, of course. So let's go through all this. Any others that I may have missed in our general vicinity? I know we talked about Texas City, San Leon, Seabrook, Alvin. Any other cities that I may have missed in our general vicinity? I mean, Webster, you've got any other pockets that I may have missed? No, it's pretty much
Not
our
that I'm aware
entire geographic.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Until you get, you know, like even Fort Bend, sort of Harris County, so, you know. borders.
so
That's about as far as it goes.
Friendswood, is that volunteer or not?
Yes.
Friendswood is also volunteer. Yes. So basically, the argument that folks may be asking is should be considered being volunteer or not? And talk to us about what that means. Like what's the difference between a volunteer fire department and one that's
Well,
So, Mr. Caesar, if I could speak, I volunteered at the fire department for about 6 to 7 years, and the fire department that I volunteered for was EMS was paid and the fire was volunteer. And the problem that arose a lot was people only show up when they're available. So if at 2, 3 in the morning somebody's house is burning down and they're trapped in their house and everybody's asleep, well, guess what? Nobody's showing up until another city comes from another town, which you're talking about 10, 15, 20 minutes away. Car wrecks, you had EMS showing up by themselves, no fire trucks. You have it's not dependable. You're at the mercy of people if they're at work or if they're available. And even then, even if you can get volunteers, like it's never a reliable source, as Mr. Martinez can imply on that.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. You call, you get help. With volunteer, you call and you may get help. The quality of that help, the time that help arrives, all that's a guessing game, right? It's an insurance policy that you call 911 and you're going to get somebody in a timely manner, properly trained, hopefully with proper equipment and people, and that can mitigate someone's emergency. People call us, they're having a bad day.
Let me ask you something else, and this is just a question for the person who may not understand this out there. And now let's talk about it from a human resource perspective, being the folks that are there. All these cities have volunteer firefighters. Why would somebody volunteer to be a firefighter instead of stepping into what surely would be one of these roles that these folks are probably hiring for?
I've never volunteered. So Rez, you volunteered. You want to kind of answer that to Mr. Garcia about why you volunteered?
So the reason that I volunteered was one, I still wasn't really, I was just trying to find a job, career to do. And that's why I was volunteering, to get experience, to get some knowledge, and go through school once I did fall in love with it. And that would help me have some experience when I did go apply for a fire department. But a lot of the people that do volunteer usually they work at the plants. So they work turnaround shifts. So like say like Lick City and like LaPorte, locations like that, they have a good turnaround of personnel because a lot of them work at chemical plants. So, they'll be available for 2 weeks and gone for 2 weeks. But I mean, I don't know. That's the big majority of people that do volunteer at the fire department. And again, the ones that do, it's not a reliable source. Like I'm saying, like I don't want to say it's live screen, but I've been at fires by myself, or maybe me and 2 people in an ambulance, and family members are telling me, we don't want the ambulance, we want a fire truck. While their house is burning down and we're waiting for another agency to come down 20, 25 minutes away to our own city, which to me, that's embarrassing because we can't even take care of our own personnel.
We have a guy, we had 2 at one point. Right now, though, he's an engineer with us and he volunteers with Hitchcock, and he has for quite some time. But, he lives in Hitchcock, and this is what he does for a living. He cares about his community and just generally love to be in this business. I'm a nerd when it comes to this fire stuff. I love this job. And this guy in particular, at one point we had 2. We lost one of them to I think East Montgomery County, but they both hold rank within that fire department or at some point. And because they enjoy what they do and they come help us in our time of need, and we actually will help them quite a bit too. So it's just the mindset, the mentality of firemen, and these guys do it, and to question why they want to do it for free, they'd have to tell you.
I know, and that's the point I wanted to make, because we do know that hiring nationally is at a downturn, right? You know that there's more vacancies than there are resources. So would it be safe to say that these folks that are volunteering may soon no longer be volunteers because they're going to get scooped up by somebody for an actual vacancy? That's probably a safe assumption, right?
Yes, and that's where Reyes was going with it. Getting his foot in the door,
Right.
Learning the lingo, learning every little aspect that, the academies, you have a short period of time to learn.
More of OJT, right? So more of the people volunteer for that on-the-job training to get their feet wet.
Absolutely.
In the actual.
Figure out that's what they want to do. You know,
There's another facet to that. The volunteer pool is shrinking. The financial status of modern families requiring, more hours a day of work and 2 incomes to support a family provide a lot less time for volunteers to answer the call when needed. And the closer that we get to, society being all of these businesses being a 365, 24-hour a day availability, the less likely there are of, the volunteer pool is just getting smaller. A lot of your volunteers now are mostly shift workers that work in plants that make significantly more money than firemen do.
or even firemen within that plant. I think,
And a lot of times they're firemen inside the plant as well, so they have both options there. But the biggest thing is the volunteer pool is shrinking because of cost of living that it takes to support your family. You don't have the time to volunteer. Many years ago, a person could survive on a single income at 36 hours a week to support a family and have a house, a car, and provide for their children. And now that 36 hours has gone to 45, 50, and even 60 hours a week, plus the spouse working. So it's hard to,
it is.
it's hard to have volunteer time when you may be watching your children while your spouse is at work and trading off, childcare duties for working.
Last time we met, we looked at the comparisons and the comparables, yourself, your department, your current department, as well as the others around. When we look at those numbers, look at those figures as to how they balance out, significantly lower than some of your counterparts, not only geographically, but also some of your comparables that they reflected here. Different from other departments whose comparables may be related on call volume, whatever the case is, or excuse me, on crime rate or whatever the case is. Yours is generated by call volume. And I guess, Chief, this is a question. How would the comps that are comparable in call volume relate, or that's the other aspect that we need to tie into this, but how is the call volume compared to the cities in comparison?
Oh, I'd have to do some research to figure that out.
Okay.
For those,
Or Captain Martinez, if you can shed some light or
No, Chief Stroud, that would require, just generating a report from the volume itself. But in a broad way of looking at it, I think we could safely say we go to Hitchcock or Texas City, or even Galveston, for mutual aid calls. I don't know, trying to give a time frame, maybe a tour, let's say that's 3 days, that's 72 hours. We probably go to Hitchcock at least 7 or 8 calls. Chief, would you say safely, in a broad kind of way? Maybe at least one a shift for sure. Texas City, Hitchcock each, if not more per day. And they come and help us too. So the volume, Bill, is not just in Lamar. I mean, our volume as a whole as the first responders in Galveston County it's up there, and it's growing, and it's becoming more. When I first started here 5 years ago and just had this one station, I remember 3 to 5 calls a shift. I mean, we're doing that before lunch right now. So, and that's 24 hours, those 3 to 5.
so to summarize the ask that's being made by the fire CPA, obviously salary is a major one, right? Within your constraints of where you are in comparison to other cities, that's your main ask.
Right. That, and that hopefully will come with more applicants. Because in today's world, you just unfortunately that's what people are looking for, looking at that dollar amount, right, to attract personnel.
Salaries, and then the other ask was more bodies, obviously. In this case,
Right.
we tabulated that we're arguably at a minimum 3 short and preferably 9, so we can properly operate the engines, right?
Absolutely.
So. Okay. Besides salary and obviously the additional bodies you need to meet your minimums, what else would you say that you are missing, or what else would we do to summarize or paraphrase your ask?
I wouldn't. That's what we came in for.
Okay.
We didn't introduce it up to this point. I think we've gotten sidetracked and stuff, but one of the side topics on the table before was insurance. But I think I heard Ms. Patty say something about that at our first meeting.
Talk to me about insurance.
So actually, I don't have it with me. Patty, do you have it? Our insurance rates on that MetLife piece of paper, that printout that you gave us. Everybody gets one, but it shows you your rates for you and spouse, you and children and spouse. So the family plan, if I'm not mistaken, is $1,000 a month. Correct? Yeah. So I'm on the family plan. So $500 every paycheck comes out strictly just for my health insurance.
So support for your insurance would be something you'd be more applicable towards as well.
Absolutely.
Support for family plans. Now, obviously for budget comparison reasons, the toughest thing of that is, okay, if right now, and I don't know the numbers, but let's just say, guess, man, how many total fire personnel do you have?
We're authorized 31.
31. So let's just, for the round number, let's say 30. If today 30 firefighters said, all right, of which 10 have the family plan, we budget, okay, well, let's cover half of that. Project that we're going to cover, and I'm just saying this for scenarios, or project that we'll cover half of that for 10. But then others might say, well, yeah, well, I want that deal. We may not project it for those. So I think for consideration of that, if that's something that you wanted us to look at, is maybe as an ask for you to try to go back and take a straw poll from your folks, is if some type of relief was made possible through insurance, what would that look like and how many folks would take advantage? And the sole reason for that is not because we want everybody to be protected, obviously, but so we can extrapolate the numbers and say, all right, well, if this were offered, then we would try to say there'll be an increase of 20% of folks that would take advantage of this. So then we take the total number times what the benefit would look like and say, all right, this is what it would cost.
Sure.
I'm totally amicable that if that's something you'd like to take back to your group.
Right. And that's what we're planning on doing. I think Ray, if you want to chime in, we're anxious to come up with some sort of direction that these meetings are going to be in. So we have to take this back to the table. And
So the reason we didn't bring up insurance in this round of negotiations was for the simple fact that the majority of people agreed on raises across the board and personnel. We have a few people that do have families, but I feel like the greater amount of the union agreed that it would be more beneficial for the whole group for raises, and later on we could come back for the insurances.
I think the discussions, at the table, you asked for like a broad kind of view of what we approached with, and that's what we were juggling with, and that's the only other thing outside of staffing and pay. And what we're working on so far, I think.
And the reason we didn't bring it up was because we know the situation with the city right now, so we didn't want to bombard y'all with so much stuff at once.
Okay. So if I guess, and Chief, for your budget reasons, for the sake of budget, if it's possible, because I know you're trying to balance the budget in some capacity, on your end, I know you've gone through some significant cuts, but if we could take a look at, and obviously with your assistance here, get a straw poll of what percentage of firefighters currently have, in this case, either family or spousal, anything other than the regular basic plan, right? And then if a percentage of that was offered as a compensation, saying, all right, you know what, year one, we're gonna try to cover 10% of that, right? How would that change anybody's decision on being part of the plan? Right? And if it does change, what would that extrapolated data cost us? If that makes sense.
That does make sense.
That makes sense. So that way we can make an educated decision on what we're gonna do. We chose to do that, and if we have that ability to do so, that would be one of the questions I would ask. And the reason I say that is because, as we mentioned, we give you $1 in raise, we're really not giving you $1. We're really giving you $1.07 because we need to pay taxes on that, obviously. And you're gonna not receive $1, you're gonna receive 92.5 cents. So technically, there's a 15-cent difference there that you don't receive and we have to pay more of. However, if we covered $1 of your insurance, it would go longer. One, it would cost us less to support that $1, and it would cost you, you would get more out of it. So technically, you're getting more bang for your buck, if you will. There's more, it's a larger amount of compensation in that sense. So that's something to consider, right? If you don't mind taking that straw poll and saying how that would affect things, because that might bode better as far as what could be done. In addition to that, we talked about obviously salary, we talked about the number of bodies, but how about scaling? Would you be amicable to scaling the increase? So for example, for the sake of conversation, let's say we were going to produce, I don't know, for the sake of math, you wanted 5%, let's just say, right? Would you be amicable to 4 in year one, 5 in year two, 6 in year three? In light of our current financial situation, would that be something that would be amicable?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think I think breaking it down over 3 years to ultimately get where we want to get, and with personnel as well. You know, again, I think I stated this probably in every meeting so far. This first year needs to be somewhat significant to get us started, being that we're just so low and everything. You know, we gotta get away from the one-man truck, so that's gotta be. We'll give you 9 people. We'll give you 3 starting at. Well, let's try 5. You know,
Right.
some significant to get away from single-man trucks to get
Right.
started, and a jump in compensation. You know, we're willing to stretch it out, but
Right.
this year has to be somewhat significant.
No, and I hear what you're saying, and I think Chief is taking note of that.
710 mutual aid calls last year.
That's good to know. I think that is a fair ask in this case, and I'm sure Chief is taking notes in this case. Chief has made some aggressive suggestions for his budget to make sure that you guys are taken care of in some capacity, considering our current budget constraints. Not only from the rollback, but also from SB2 that does not allow us to obviously grow at the pace we would like.
Right.
So he's got some very aggressive ideas of how to do that. And I want to make sure that you guys would be amicable to that in some capacity.
Absolutely. And I think it's good that, I think we talked about at the very end of the last meeting, educating the public part, you know, because I'm a resident of one, you know, I have social media. So we're here, we see all kinds of stuff, especially broke out as a hot topic, right? Some people just want to know where those dollars are going. Some people, you know, that's what these numbers show. For us, it's good because, you know, we now and everyone else has an idea of what percentage of your taxes are actually, where they're actually going, and how it's affecting the citizen themselves, how they're benefiting from it. And that's good. That's good stuff that you would think a lot of people would be really interested in that, you know, in this education, getting this information out there. I think it's important because, again, ultimately we want to be able to show up and do our job and do it well. That's really all this is for. We're going to stretch out and get an ultimate plan. I think somebody, I don't know if it was YouTube that brought it up, that it's been attempted a number of times to have like this scaling plan. And then in the middle, something just falls out, either mass exodus or different chief, or, you know, what was it? July 21, you know, that mess where everybody up and left at the same time, and that plan now falls through.
Well, I think one thing that we're basing this on is whatever plan is put in place is one that is solid enough regardless of who's at the helm. right? If collectively we come up with a solid plan and we all agree to the plan and attest to the plan, then it will make sense. We're moving forward.
Okay.
Chief, do you have anything you'd like to add? Based on the conversation we're having back and forth? Because I think we're very clear on the marching orders we have. And if so, we'll turn it back to you. If not, Chief.
Actually, you know, wouldn't mind calling the conference to consult with the guys that aren't here.
Oh, absolutely.
That will one of them here,
Sure.
and just a little break.
Would you like to take that now?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
I don't, if you're desiring of that now, and then Chief, that'll give you enough time. Is that fair?
Sure.
So for the sake of everybody that's listening, we're gonna take a brief break. And well, actually, I'm sorry, Ms. Patty, would you like to add anything?
I have that break sheet.
Excellent. That'll be helpful as well. Anybody else would like to add anything before we take a brief break? No? Gus, anything you'd like to add?
No.
Okay, great. If everybody is a consensus, how much time would you like? Yeah,
15 minutes.
15 minutes is fair enough. Everybody in accordance with that? Chief, is that enough time?
Yes.
All right, we'll take a break for 15 minutes. It looks like it is, looks like 10 minutes to 11. So we'll reconvene at 11:05. Thank you, everybody. We'll go on break. All right, I'd like to welcome us back following our caucus, pardon delays. We left off with the summary of where we were so far. Summary of the fire, the actual CBA's ask has been salary to be commensurate to some of its local partners. Percentage is still being looked at as to what that would be and what that financial restraint would be on the department and on the city, to which Chief Merriman has taken on that task and will provide that to us. Not today, obviously, but that's quite a huge undertaking. Some of the things that we talked about were the comparison from the partnering cities and other cities who do not have fire departments who serve with volunteer status. A comparison was looked at the population of each, the budget for each, what the cost per capita would be. Now, things that have been added today that we're looking at is the call volume of each one of those comparables, and then essentially a cost per call.
Right.
So we looked at on both the fire and the EMS side. So once all that data is compiled, we'll have a much better picture as to where we are to support the ask or the counter or whatever,
Right.
to support whatever decision being made or
Right.
suggested at this time.
And just a little greater detail in our previous meetings, the packet that you had that we initially come up with,
Mhm.
there actually were percentages. It was 15, 20, and 25, right?
Mhm.
The scaling didn't come to a means till this meeting, which we're obviously willing to do,
Sure.
but one of those numbers is still the ask. The
Sure.
scaling has been added, which is great. I think it's a good thing. It has a less impact on the city. It's not that we're not going to consider it.
Sure.
We're motivated by. This is weird for me to say because I personally experienced it. So I don't know if I should say I or we when it comes to 3282, but like I don't like riding by myself in a fire truck. So I'm kind of my motivation may be a little bit stronger. But
Your personal motivation will be more on bodies than it would on salaries, what you're saying. However, you're also representing
the
your
collective whole, and it goes together. Without the pay, we don't get the bodies. So it's one of those things. So one of those percentages is definitely what we're asking. The scaling is there.
Okay.
And so now, yeah, it's just a matter of the information that we gather. I think it's safe to say, like I said, I've gathered quite a bit. I've never done this before. This has been an interesting, eye-opening adventure. I never really saw this side of it, and this is my first negotiation as well.
I think you're doing a commendable job. Absolutely. You've been prepared.
But those percentages are there. That's the ask. The scaling is good. I like that idea.
Captain Martinez,
I think
if I can interrupt you real quick, because the other part of the ask that it was discussed was the insurance. Ms. Patty, when is open enrollment where folks would be allowed to make any changes to their insurance?
We're looking at August 28th.
August
That's coming
28th.
up pretty quick.
So it's coming up pretty fast. So
Yeah.
essentially it would take effect November, October 1. So the new would take effect at the beginning of the new fiscal year. So should that be a consideration to be made, it's not that it would take effect as to whenever that was. So there would be time through open enrollment for that to take place.
I don't think we'll touch with that and just being as honest as I can. Just off the top of my head, and myself is including this on the family plan. There's not enough to make it fair.
There's not enough folks on the
Percentages
panel.
on paper, right? Exactly, and that's just off first glance. And I've gotten like 30 text messages since that comment. So
No,
so
that's why it was brought to the table.
right.
We
And for me,
brought it
like
to the table.
for me, that'd be great. That is a pay raise for me.
Sure,
Huge pay raise for me.
sure.
You're very $1,000 a month,
Right.
honestly. But we're looking at that bigger picture again, right? Looking at morale, compensation, let people get the job done. We're all happy. We're out there doing the best work we can provide for us, right? That's the whole picture. And that's exactly what I have to operate,
Got it.
And so really, that's all I got. That's
Very
really
good.
all I got.
Chief, anything you'd like to add before we once again summarize the ask and then move to next course of action?
No, sir.
And then with personnel, we talked about that, having, enough people.
Sure. So-
I think we would be willing to, in light of the information, extend, if we do that in writing, right?
Actually, technically, Gus, to extend the meeting as if meeting 0 was, or meeting 1 would have been meeting 0 essentially, since it was just to document what had occurred, what steps do we need to take? Is there anything that needs to take place in writing? No, he didn't have a call. I'm pretty sure nothing has to take place. I think it's just an administrative order to show that the first meeting was an introductory meeting, but I'll confirm it. If anything does have to be ratified to do so, let it be heard that we both are agreeing to that. I wanted to open that to you since it was open to another
Right.
CBA, so
And
we
we-
have fair.
I think we're willing to,
Mhm.
but I think we're more comfortable with the signed agreement, just like we did
Oh,
for the
no.
initial,
Absolutely.
we're in the whole year. That's our initial extension, right? We're talking about another meeting now, but
Yeah.
still,
No, I don't,
yeah,
I don't think there's any regulation on that. We're still gonna keep the same calendar. We're still gonna finish the same amount of time. It's just that according to that, nothing was pretty much to be asked after meeting 3, which would allow this, if we did do that, then it
Right.
wouldn't be an additional ask passed today.
right, absolutely,
And that would be, it gives you another meeting essentially.
right.
It
And
doesn't really
that's good
affect
with
the
us.
city, it affects you more than anything.
And even something, like I said, just printed out that we all sign. Still just, we feel more comfortable with that, just to make sure.
Okay.
And that's my advice I'm getting from the wisdom from the guys that have done this before.
Not a
You
problem.
know?
I have no problem with that if that's your will, and I'm sure Gus can draw that up and we could easily do that. Or amend what
Absolutely.
we originally
Absolutely.
submitted, because I think that's exactly what was being done through fire. Or excuse me, through police.
Good.
So having said that, nothing further, I want to summarize. The ask is the salary, the 15, 20, 25 are the 3 options. More bodies, and in relation to that, the reason for that ask being where it was is for years, you guys have stayed stagnant, not really received much of a increase. And as such, has try to come in line with what others are paying. Because on average, right now, you're anywhere between $8,000 and $11,000 underpaid for the starting position, not per role, but just to summarize.
Yeah.
More bodies, 9 would be preferable. 3 would be just an initial ask so that we were at least, if 2 engines were to combine, you would be at 4-man engines.
Right.
The possibility of scaling has been a counter due to our budgetary constraints, and you are amicable to that if it needed to take place. Insurance support was tossed out, but you said you'd be willing more to table it for fairness of everybody.
Yes, sir.
And if so, we would need to look at what percentage of the firefighters would have family plans or would take on family plans if something like that was done. And that being said, that is for the most part the summary of what your ask is to date. Was there anything else countered or requested to be countered? Chief, that you would request as your counter or anything else of that nature? Now it's a matter of how do you fit what your ask is into.
Oh, I'm sure that's a gigantic test, yeah.
Yes, which has already started.
I don't have anything at this time.
Well, with nothing further, we'll convene this meeting. We will announce our next meeting. I don't have my calendar on me. You know when our next meeting is?
Well, there was only 3 scheduled.
Okay.
So-
I looked at the calendar and I'm looking at August 17th as a possible date.
Okay, we have that slotted. So what we'll do is if we do indeed go with August 17th, that'll give us enough time to start going through the budget process, Captain Martinez, if you would allow us that gap in between. Because until we have some concrete numbers to come back to you with, there's nothing to really,
Yes, no, I
to do
agree.
that, since we're just kicking off the budget process tonight, announcing a proposed budget to the city. And it's a very preliminary proposed budget because there's a lot of things that still need to be balanced
A
out.
lot of moving parts, yeah. I get it. Yes, August 17th, we can set it, and hopefully, nothing.
Assuming that the dates fall in line with the budget and so forth.
Right,
Yeah, let me just double check it. And then once I confirm the room status and all of that, I'll send out a calendar invite to everybody that needs to be there.
Thank you, Ms. Jennifer.
Welcome.
For the group, does anybody, Ms. Patty, do you have anything for the good of the group? Heather,
I don't, I'm good.
Chief?
I'm good.
On behalf of everybody here, Gus, do you have anything?
I do not.
Anybody else out there? Mr. Reyes, anything you'd like to try?
Negative. I think Mr. Martinez laid everything out as far as we want. We're good.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you very much, everybody here. We'll convene for today and then move from there. Very good. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.